The clinic didn't exist yet. Just a picture in my head, blurry at the edges but bright at the center. I could see a place where patients would be treated with dignity, where I could pour every ounce of knowledge and compassion I had into healing. But when I spoke about it, no one believed me. Ayesha, my uncle scoffed across the dinner table. You're barely making enough as an assistant doctor, and you're talking about building your own clinic. Do you even know how expensive equipment is? My brother laughed outright, shoving another spoon of biryani into his mouth. You don't even own a car, but you want to own a clinic. Be realistic, Appa. Dreams don't pay bills. Even my mother, the one person I thought would stand by me, sighed deeply. Beta, clinics are for people with big families to back them up, with investors, with men to handle the hard work. You're just you. Why don't you save yourself the trouble and stay where you are? Her words cut deeper than anyone else's. Just me, I thought. Wasn't that enough? But their laughter and dismissal only fueled me. You can't, became a brick in the foundation of my will. I started with nothing, literally. I sold the little gold bangles my grandmother had given me when I graduated from medical school. I swallowed my pride and took a loan from the bank, signing papers with trembling hands, praying I wouldn't regret it. My nights turned into 12-hour hospital shifts, followed by long hours researching cheap rentals that could house my clinic. Eventually, I found a narrow building with peeling paint, flickering tube lights, and a smell of dampness in the air. Anyone else would have walked away. I stood there and saw possibility. The first day I walked in with a mop and bucket, scrubbing the stains on the floor. I could still hear my family's mocking words echoing in my head. Waste of money. Waste of time. Who will even come to you? But I didn't let their voices win. I painted the walls myself, my hands blistering from hours of work. I bought second-hand chairs for the waiting area, mismatched but sturdy. A local carpenter built me a wooden desk, and I placed a single pot of artificial flowers on it. Something cheerful to soften the clinical smell of antiseptic. There were nights when exhaustion pulled me down so hard, I would collapse onto the dusty floor, tears soaking my sleeves. My bank account was a battlefield, bills piling up like enemies surrounding me. And yet, every morning, I opened the shutters of that little clinic, breathed in the damp smell, and whispered to myself, "This will work. It has too." At first, no one came. Days went by where I sat at my desk, pretending to read files, waiting for the sound of the door creaking open. Sometimes I thought of closing the clinic and hiding away from the humiliation, but slowly, so slowly it felt like time was mocking me, people started coming in. A child with a fever, an elderly woman with aching joints, a laborer with a deep wound on his hand. Word spread, not fast, but steady. Patients came back. They told their neighbors, their friends, and they came too. With every patient, a little piece of me healed. With every thank you, I built another invisible wall of strength around myself. The clinic wasn't big, it wasn't fancy, but it was mine. I would often look at the door, half expecting my family to walk in, not as patients, but as witnesses to what I had done. But they never came. They had written me off long ago. And maybe that was for the best. Because this dream, this fragile little seed I had planted, was beginning to grow roots. And soon, it would bloom. 2 years had passed since the day I first unlocked the rusty shutters of my little clinic. It no longer smelled of dampness. Instead, it smelled faintly of disinfectant and blooming marigolds. Flowers my staff placed at the entrance every Monday morning. The once empty waiting chairs were now always occupied, with patients patiently waiting their turn. The air buzzed with the low hum of conversations, the clinking of instruments, and the occasional cry of a child getting vaccinated. My clinic was alive. The cracked walls were freshly painted. My desk was polished, and the shelves behind me carried files neatly labeled with patients' names. I had bought a proper examination bed, a blood pressure monitor that wasn't borrowed, and a sterilizer that gleamed under the white light. The loans I once thought would bury me paid off. The sleepless nights of doubt slowly turning into peaceful evenings, where I could finally sit with a cup of tea and look at what I had built. But it wasn't just about money or equipment. It was about reputation. People trusted me. They came not because I had the fanciest clinic in the city, but because they knew I listened, I cared, and I treated them with dignity. And that's when my family returned. It started with a phone call from my mother. Her voice was unusually sweet, wrapped in honey. "Betta, how are you? I heard your clinic is doing so well. Your aunt's neighbor came to you for a checkup, and she was praising you so much. You've made us all very proud." I froze. The phone pressed against my ear. Proud, the same people who laughed at me, who said I was wasting my life, were now proud. Soon after, my brother showed up at the clinic, dressed in an expensive shirt, sunglasses perched on his head like a crown. He strolled in like he owned the place, ignoring the patients waiting, and leaned casually against my desk. "Not bad, Appa," he said, scanning the clinic. "Business looks good. You should think about expanding. Opening another branch. I could help manage it. As family." I almost laughed in his face. Help manage. He hadn't lifted a single brick, hadn't offered a single rupee when I was begging for support. But now that the clinic was thriving, he wanted to manage it. The cousins came next, smiling too widely, their eyes darting greedily around the clinic. "Cousin, mashallah, you've done so well. We always knew you would succeed." One of them said, the same cousin who once told me I was wasting my degree. "You should make this a family business. We're all here for you." A family business. The words tasted bitter. Then came the dinners. The gatherings where relatives who once ignored me now seated me at the center, showering me with praise. "You're an inspiration," they said. "You've put our family name on the map," they said. "You should let your brother-in-law invest. Keep the wealth within the family," they said. Every smile felt like a dagger, every compliment like poison dripping slowly into my veins. I wanted to scream at them, to remind them of the nights I cried alone, of the days I starved to save money for rent, of the humiliation I swallowed when they called me foolish. But I didn't. I just smiled. A quiet, polite smile. Because I knew something they didn't. Their sudden love wasn't love at all. It was greed. And though I didn't know it yet, their greed would grow sharper, darker, until it cut me in ways I never thought family could. But for now, I let them bask in the illusion of closeness. I let them clap me on the back and speak of family pride. Because I also knew this success attracts shadows. And my family was the darkest shadow of all. It began subtly. A missing file here, a patient complaint there, whispers among the staff that maybe the clinic wasn't being run properly. At first, I dismissed it as normal workplace issues. After all, no clinic runs perfectly every day. But then, one evening, as I was leaving late, I overheard two of my nurses whispering near the staircase. Her cousin offered me double the salary to join their new clinic. One said hesitantly. "They said it'll be bigger. Better, because it's backed by family money." My heart stopped. I leaned against the wall, their words sinking into me like shards of glass. My family, my blood, the very people who refused to give me a dime, who mocked me, who called me foolish, were now plotting to steal the very thing I bled for. It wasn't just my cousin. Soon, I found out my own brother had been approaching suppliers, telling them he'd soon be taking over the clinic. He promised them bigger contracts, using my reputation as bait. And then the papers arrived. One morning, my mother came to my clinic, her face tight with forced concern. "Betta, sign these documents, just formality. We're just protecting your assets, making sure the land isn't lost if something happens to you." Something inside me broke when I read them. They weren't for protection. They were transfers. My family was trying to put the clinic's property under a joint name. My brothers, my uncles, my cousins. In their eyes, my years of sacrifice were nothing more than an investment they were entitled to claim. I looked at my mother, the woman who raised me, and I saw not love, but manipulation. "You want me to hand over my life's work?" I whispered, the papers trembling in my hand. Her eyes softened, but her words were knives. It's family, Ayesha. You shouldn't be so selfish. You should share what you have built. After all, family is everything. A family is everything. Those words echoed in my mind for days. Family had been everything to me once. I endured their mockery because I believed deep down they still loved me. But now, I saw the truth to them. I was not a daughter, not a sister. I was a bank, a title deed, a success story they could hijack. The betrayal cut deeper when I discovered they had approached some of my loyal patients, whispering that I was planning to move abroad, that I would abandon the clinic soon. They urged them to join the family's new clinic instead. I came home one night, locked my door, and cried until my chest ached. Not because of the stolen patients, not even because of the forged papers, but because the people I once called mine had chosen greed over love. In that moment of hollow silence, sitting on the floor with tears burning my face, I made a decision. If my family wanted war, they would have it. But not the kind they expected. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't beg. I wouldn't fight them with chaos. I would fight them with silence, with intelligence, with the law, with strategy. And when I was done, they would realize this: what I had built alone. And alone, I would rise higher than they could ever imagine. After the betrayal, my heart turned cold, but my mind sharpened. If they wanted to play a game, I would not just play. I would win. The first step was protection. Quietly, I consulted a lawyer, a man who had once been my patient. He listened as I poured out everything: the forged papers, the manipulation, the whispered lies. He leaned back in his chair and gave me the weapon I needed: a knowledge. We restructured everything. The clinic was no longer just a business under my name. It became a private trust, secured legally so that no outsider, no family member, could claim ownership. Every asset, every piece of equipment, every brick was documented under my sole authority. The land was locked with ironclad legal rights. And I told no one. I still smiled at family gatherings, still listened to their false praise, still endured their talk of expansion plans. They thought they were pulling me into their schemes. They didn't know I had already built walls higher than their reach. The second step was vision. While they were busy plotting to steal what existed, I was quietly creating something new. Using the clinic's growing reputation, I built connections with investors who truly believed in me. Within a year, I opened a second clinic, bigger, brighter, better, in another city. This time, I didn't scrub the floors myself. I didn't buy second-hand chairs. I walked into the grand opening wearing a crisp white coat, my name shining on the signboard like a crown. Patients lined up. Media outlets covered the story, and my staff, loyal to me, followed with pride. And my family. They heard the news like strangers. Because that's what they had become. Their new clinic. The one they had tried to build on my reputation collapsed before it could stand. They had no patience, no trust, no foundation. They had only greed, and greed cannot heal the sick. Suppliers pulled out, staff refused to join. And one by one, the walls of their ambition crumbled. It wasn't long before they came crawling back. One evening, as I walked through the waiting area of my first clinic, the one I had built with my blood and tears, I saw them. My mother, my brother, my cousins. Sitting quietly on the same mismatched chairs they once mocked. They weren't here to steal this time. They were here to beg. Ayesha, my mother whispered, her voice heavy with shame, your brother's business failed. Your cousins, they're struggling. We need help. You've grown so much. Can't you find a place for them? Maybe give them positions in your clinics. We're family, after all. For a moment, I just stood there, memories flashing before me. The laughter, the rejection, the forged papers. The nights I cried alone, wishing they believed in me. Then I smiled, not cruelly, not bitterly, just calmly. Of course, Amy, I said softly. Take a seat. Wait your turn. Here, in this clinic, everyone is treated equally, family or not. And with that, I walked past them, into the heart of the place they once said I could never build. That was my revenge. Not shouting, not revengeful plots, not destroying them. My revenge was silence, dignity, and unshakable success. I didn't need to push them down. I just had to rise so high, they could never reach me. And as the shutters closed that night, I realized something. Family had abandoned me when I had nothing. But my patients, my staff, my work. They became the real family I had always deserved. I had built my clinic from scratch, alone, and now, I had built a life that no betrayal could touch.